Hello, everybody. How are you doing this week? Welcome back to International School of the East. Hopefully, we know the name of our class: public dancing, public cooking, about public speaking. Yes. So ENG 105. And today's lecture, to look at my trusty calendar, is going to be for the 26th of October. Okay. 26th of October. Okay. All right. So, like I said, hopefully everybody's hanging tough. It's getting a little cooler in the evenings, not as hot in the afternoons. Still hot, but not as hot. I think it'll still be hot until first week of November. So, anyway, that being said, today's topic is about managing fear, which is probably the biggest issue for people that want to participate in public speaking. So, I have a lot of information there for you and techniques. It should all go well. Please listen, pay attention. Okay. So let me proceed to the material. Okay. I'm in a small box, but I'll just disappear here for you. Okay. Bye-bye. You can still hear my voice. I'm going to set it up from the beginning. There we go. ENG 105. Public speaking. Week 3, because remember we had a Columbus Day holiday. Okay. All right. So move that away from the written material. Thank you. All right. So again, like I said, managing fear. The fear of public speaking is real and widespread. So that means it's all over the place, right? I could say McDonald's are widespread all over the United States, or even more centralized over Los Angeles. And so is the fear of public speaking. You can take any city, and most of the people are going to be afraid. Continuing, it's been said that many people would list public speaking ahead of dying on a list of things they dread most. Okay, dread. Dread is worse than worry. I can give you an example. Let's say, you go to your car and there's a ticket on your car. So, and it's only for parking, right? It went over the meter or whatever. You're not happy, you're upset, but, it's on the low end. You just worry, how much is the parking ticket now? It used to be 35 before. I think my friend said they're up to 60. So you just worry until you pull it out and then look and see what the fee is. But dread is much more severe, so worse. So you will dread something like you go to the doctor for a cancer biopsy, which means test, and he says, I will have the results for you in 7 days. Those 7 days you will dread because most people are going to think, oh my God, I'm going to have cancer. I know it. I can feel it. So you're going to dread those results. It's much more severe than just worry. And that's the area where we put people who, okay, we need you to do a speech, and they don't want to do it. The bad news is that if this phobia is an irrational fear that doesn't make sense, isn't managed effectively, it will likely become a self-fulfilling prophecy. So self-fulfilling means you're making this situation possible by your own actions, right? We make it easy for you. Excuse me. If the doctor, you go to the doctor uh, after smoking 2 packs a day for 10 years, and the doctor tells you you are starting to get emphysema, and if you continue to smoke, probably the same 2 packs a day, which I think is 40 cigarettes, 20 a pack. If you continue this for the next 10 years, you're probably going to start getting lung cancer. So if you listen to the doctor and stop, you'll be okay. But if you continue, you are yourself fulfilling this prophecy. You are making this cancer happen. Okay? So that's what that means. The good news is that the feeling is perfectly normal. Yes, the fear is normal. You can manage it, and indeed, you can overcome it. It's great. You learn how to manage the fear, and you can use it. I like to parallel this with, like, if you read about the fighters, whether they're boxers or MMA guys, and you see a champion and you say, wow, he's the best. Obviously that guy's so good, he doesn't feel any fear. And if you get an honest fellow there, he tells you, yes, it doesn't matter that I'm the champion. I feel fear, but I overcome it by managing it the best that I can, right? Like it says right here. Manage effectively and use it positively. Okay. All right. Finishing up on the bottom. To properly manage the fear of public speaking, you must first understand exactly what it is. Nothing more than classic stage fright. Okay. Stage fright is for actors that do plays live in front of an audience, not movie or TV actors, because they can make many mistakes and they cut and edit the film. But when you do it live, there's no room for mistakes, and that's why people really panic. This is also very common of singers that have to come up and sing before a large audience. They start getting very fearful, it's nervousness. So, continuing, it is usually the result of thinking that all of your shortcomings are going to become flagrantly evident during this short-term event. Okay, shortcomings. I don't know if you've heard this word before, but shortcomings are all the mistakes that you make or areas that you're not confident in, and you're afraid people are going to see these things, whether it's you scratch your nose too much or you move around too much. And then flagrantly means very, very obviously, right? So you just over worry and think, oh my God, they're going to see my left little pinky start moving or the way I move my foot. And that's going to stop you from delivering a really good speech. Okay. So don't forget this part right here. Short-term event. The speech doesn't last too long. It's a small area of time. But people get so nervous and think that it goes on forever. It's the end of the world, but it's not. So continuing, the fact is that most of the so-called shortcomings that you're worried about are just figments of your imagination. So figments of your imagination means that these strange things you think about yourself, they really don't exist. They're not something that people focus on, right? So even those that might be real are likely blown out of proportion by an overactive imagination. Here's a very common term, American folks probably not heard this. My father used to use this term a lot, blown out of proportion, which just means that you make these things bigger or worse than they are. Okay? It's like saying someone doesn't want to give a speech because they say, oh, I have this freckle on my nose, right? Everyone's going to stare at that freckle on my nose. When in reality, the freckle is so small that the people in the audience can't even see it. You know about it because you see it every day when you're up close in the bathroom mirror. But, it's just your imagination. This is not going to stop people from, concentrating on your speech. Now, if you dyed your hair purple, then yes, they're going to be staring at your purple hair. So even those that might be real are likely blown out of proportion by your overactive imagination. Don't think that you have to overcome all your weaknesses. Now, this question I usually ask on the test. People, so pay attention right here, okay? So don't think you have to overcome all your weaknesses, whether they are real or imagined at once. So some people are what we call perfectionists. So they're going to look, especially if they practice their speech first, they're going to look and say, hey, what are all the weird things that I do? Again, you scratch your nose too much, or some older men, they put their hands in their pockets and they jingle their change, whatever. Some people pucker their lips, but just don't give a big kiss, right? So if you have a, 1 through 7 weaknesses or 10, don't worry about overcoming all of them. The other ones are probably so small that you don't, just worry about the big major ones that you can control. Don't jingle the change. So just before you go up to the speech, make sure you don't have change in your pockets. So you can put your hand in your pocket and play around, but there's no change to make noise, right? So your minor ones, people won't even pay attention to. And then here's some more technique. To counter this temporary anxiety, you must build long-term confidence in your ability to fix what needs to be fixed and learn to place everything else in its proper perspective. And that goes along too with American concept that some people use. And we have a saying, don't sweat, sweat like when you exercise or when you worry. Don't sweat the small stuff. So what that means is, obviously in life, you're going to have a mix as your life goes on. You're going to have a mix of big problems and small problems, right? And basically what that says, what that saying means is, okay, you want to worry about something big, like the IRS is coming after you for back taxes. Okay, you can sweat that, right? But the smaller or smallest problems that you have, don't worry about them. I've worked with ladies that their whole day was destroyed because they broke a fingernail, and that's the small stuff, you know. Somebody just stole your car, worry about that. That's a big thing to sweat, but not breaking a nail, or you went to Subway and you ordered a chicken sandwich and they made you a pork sandwich. It's like those are small things. Continuing, instead of wasting time and energy worrying about what might go wrong, consider instead what is important right now. You were asked to give this presentation to this particular audience. So at least someone thinks you're the right person for it. And again, many, many people destroy their power and their ability to give a good speech because they're worrying what might go wrong. You should think what might go right, and give yourself that kind of confidence. So think about it. If you're up there giving a speech and you're worried and something does go wrong, you're going to just fall apart. But if you go up there confident and some minor thing goes wrong, you'll say, that's okay. I'll just continue with this powerfully positive ability, just like a Wani. She's very positive when she gives speeches about boba, or that's Ishwan. So, and as it says here, at least someone thinks you're the right person for it. So that means, like, if you're working for a company and your boss says, I think Lesak should give this speech, and he feels confident. Maybe he wouldn't ask Mr. Hong, but he'll ask Lesak. Right here it says then start to think about how you can best prepare and deliver the speech. That preparation is a big secret to success. And then your delivery is the second big one. Okay, we'll talk about their intersection there later. This will put things in their proper perspective. Okay, here's another term. We're getting a lot of these terms here. Have you ever heard the term proper perspective? Okay. Let me try to give you these wild examples to make the meaning really, really obvious. Okay. All right. Let's say you're one of my male students here, and you're really in love with Britney Spears. Okay. And you're dating her, and you're going to marry her. You set a date for your marriage. You know this is going to be the happiest day in your life so far as a young man. But I don't know how, but you find out that Britney Spears doesn't really love you, and she's just marrying you for your money, because all I have are super rich men in my class, like a Temujin, right? But we already know he wants to marry not Britney. But if he did, and he finds this out, even though, and you find out real, like, documents and people, testify to you, it'll break your heart. You love Britney so much, you want to marry her, but you have to think about what's the correct perspective, the correct way to think about it. She doesn't love you. She's going to steal from you. She's going to make trouble. So you cannot marry that person. That's the proper perspective on how to look at the situation, not that your heart is broken and you thought, she's so beautiful, you had to have her, right? And that's the same thing here. What's the proper perspective here? You're not putting your life on the line in a half-hour speech. Now, if you did work for a company, you might have to give a half-hour speech. When I teach the speech class where students actually give a speech, and again, you're not giving a speech in this class, you're learning the techniques for it, so don't worry. Um, you don't have to get that nervous. And like I said, if I give a speech, I will let my students go 5 minutes the max. How's that? Some teachers go 15, but I usually go 5. And you could do it 3 to 5, but you should go 5. In other words, if you did 5, you probably get an A. Okay, unless it was crazy stuff. So don't worry, it's not that big of a situation. And plus, you're with your classmates who know you and like you. So what's the worry? You're not going up in front of a company of people that you've never seen before, and they might not like you if you don't give a good speech. Right? At the bottom, there are about 42 million minutes in a typical lifetime. So someone's opinion of just 30 minutes of your lifetime shouldn't worry you too much. Just as dropping a ball in a game of catch doesn't mean that you lack physical coordination. So stumbling is like making mistakes a bit in a speech doesn't mean you're stupid or incompetent. Not at all. Although it's true that continued bad performances at the lectern, and the lectern is if you were giving a speech, it's that horizontally tall, it's not a box, it's a wooden platform, and you stand behind it and put your notes on top. That is a lectern where people speak behind and teach, what have you. So, although it's true that continued bad performances at the lectern can badly damage a career, but that means after a number of speeches. A subpar performance or two, subpar means below average, particularly early in your career as a public speaker, certainly won't ruin your reputation. So let me give you a little bit of advice there. Um, most of you guys are really young, so I don't know if some of you have thought about maybe being a radio announcer, being on the radio. Okay, if you did, and I used to have a good friend that went to broadcasting school, and that's what he wanted to do. And I learned some things from that. I also had the wrong thinking, right? Obviously, he did, and he actually damaged his potential. All the young guys think, well, I'll go to this broadcasting school, and then right away I'll start working in LA, New York, or Chicago. Those are the biggest markets in the US, right? But they never let you do that. And it's for your own good. They will put you in some tiny city in a faraway state to work, the graveyard shift, the midnight shift. You're going to be a radio DJ or host from 12 a.m. till 4 in the morning. And my friend was very foolish and he's demanding, I want to work in LA only. I'm so good. I'm the best. And he damaged his career. But the smart person realizes, like it says here, the subpar performance or two, when they put you on at 12 midnight in some town in New Mexico or South Dakota, and everybody makes mistakes. So you make a few mistakes when you start your career there, nobody remembers, nobody notices. I mean, a lot of people might not even be awake at that time. So that makes you very professional for after so many years, you finally get an offer to come to a big city. Okay, so these things certainly won't ruin your reputation. And what this means here is if you do a lot of speeches for your company, when you first start out, let's say out of 7 speeches, you do 2 not so good ones, well, that's 5 more. Then you continue and you don't do those subpar ones anymore. Then people forget, oh, that was 3 years ago. So this should make you confident. But this doesn't mean that the fear doesn't need to be managed. I mentioned that earlier. Even professional fighters, they have to manage that fear, especially in your rookie phase as a public speaker. So if you haven't heard the term rookie, it means your first phase. I don't know how long that lasts, maybe 6 months, whatever. But that's when you first start. This term rookie, young people don't use it anymore. Young people use the term newbie, newbie. But that's what that means. For sports, you're a rookie your whole first year. So after that, then you become a veteran. Then, even after gaining confidence as a speaker, you might need some fear management when you're dealing with a new topic or when you're about to face a particularly daunting audience. And daunting means like a tough audience, right? So again, a new topic might get you a little nervous if you're not familiar with it as much. And if your boss tells you, well, this company, the people, it's very hard to change their mind and make them listen, but hopefully you do a good speech. They'll let you know if you're doing well or badly very quickly. So here's how you prevent your fear from becoming that old self-fulfilling prophecy. Don't let the fear destroy you. Please no. Listen to my notes and information. Early on, you need to remember that you will eventually overcome your fear. As you gain experience and acquire and hone means to improve the skills needed to become a poised public speaker. Poised is a very good word. I know some American people that don't know the word poise. You can ask them, do you have poise under pressure? And they say, poison? You say, no, poise. And it's a great thing to have. And you can acquire it for speech as long as you prepare and practice. So what poise is the ability to stand there while people make noise. Suddenly a plane goes by, it's too low and it's very noisy, or somebody starts coughing, or somebody interrupts you, and you're able to be strong and confident, let them cough, let the plane go by, and then continue with your speech. You have that poise. You just don't break down and go, oh, I can't handle it. Or the person's yelling, or the baby's crying. You stand there and continue your speech with a poised power. In the meantime, the most important aspect of managing your fear is to develop the right mental attitude. And if you have the right mental attitude, it goes right into the poise. You must start with believing in yourself as a person, believing in the positions you're going to take with your speech, and believing that what you have to say is valuable to your audience. So think about that for a second. If you don't feel what you're saying is truly valuable because you're not a politician, politicians all lie, right? But you're not a politician. So if you don't think what you're having to say is valuable, the audience can tell and they won't believe you. So again, I give these crazy examples so that there can be no doubt. Let's say I hate kimchi. It's not true, but let's say I hate kimchi. And I'm supposed to give a speech and tell everybody how fantastic kimchi is, right? But personally, that's going to be kind of hard for me because I think kimchi tastes terrible. It's too spicy and sour, sometimes fishy. Ah. So it's going to be hard for me to really sound convincing and say, I love kimchi. It's fantastic. I'm probably going to sound like, yeah, I love kimchi. It's fantastic. So it's important that you believe what you're saying is valuable. Remind yourself that you know enough about the topic to merit, which means deserve, the audience's attention. So if you've done your study, then confident with your knowledge, then hey, you deserve their attention. No problem. Convince yourself that you're the right person to make this presentation. And you tell yourself, I am the right person to make this presentation. The boss picked the right guy. It's me. He picked Inky over Tamu because he knows Inky has that poise and Inky has a high IQ. This may mean giving yourself a few mental pep talks, which is like, come on, I can do it, I can do it, to yourself during your preparation. And at any other time that doubt begins to rear its ugly head. So that just means when doubt shows up in your mind, that's when you need these personal pep talks. Be sure to give yourself a couple of pep talks before arriving at the podium on the day of the presentation. So you're not just sitting there or standing in the background having a cup of coffee and do. I wonder how the Dodgers did, or did LeBron win the game for the Lakers? No, give yourself pep talks. Make yourself confident. Anytime you feel a negative attitude about a presentation, which is this creeping in, which means slowly coming into your mind, this negative attitude, remind yourself what a proud and satisfying moment it is when you take a stand on an important issue. Then think about what a wonderful feeling it is to convince people that your position is the right one. And it is a good feeling. Remind yourself again that somebody thinks you have something worthwhile to say, meaning your boss, or else you wouldn't have been asked to speak. So, again, if you tell me, hey, man, I was going to yeah, boss is going to say, I can't ask that guy to give a speech. I better go to each one. I can't. Confidence. Remember that even if there are a couple of people in the audience who know a lot about your topic, you have a completely different perspective on it. They'll be interested in hearing your new views. This is important too. A lot of people will worry. They'll say, hey, I've studied a lot about this topic. And I feel pretty good. I feel I studied enough. But oh my God, I just saw some people in the audience and I know they're experts. And one guy wrote a book on the subject. So they know more than me. I'm afraid I can't give the speech now. Yes, you can. Because as it says here, you will have a completely different perspective on it. And they'll be interested in hearing your views. So again, let me give you kind of an out there analogy. Let's say um, there's a couple of people and they're from Beijing and they wrote some books about the Forbidden City, right? And one guy's got a master's degree in Chinese history. The other guy's just a lifelong, I think this is the correct term, Beijinger. Hmm. So, of course, I might be nervous because I'm going to give a speech about my experience at the Forbidden City. But they might be interested and probably will be because my perspective on it, I'm not a Chinese. I'm not a person from Beijing. I'm not a person with a master's degree from Beijing University. So they're going to be curious, like, what's this foreign guy? What's he going to say? What does he feel about the Forbidden City? So don't worry about it. You will have a different perspective on it than someone else. Okay? You are prepared right now to give any number of talks that no one else could give. Believe that. That's because no one else has had exactly your experiences. No one else has studied exactly what you have studied. And no one else has developed exactly your attitudes. That's why they always tell us everybody's unique. Think back to all the times you've approached challenges with feelings of trepidation. Trepidation is worry. Big, big word for worry. And I'll bet you'll find that you've almost always surpassed your expectations, which means you've done better than what you thought you would do. Giving a speech is not going to be any different. It's going to be the same kind of situation. You'll probably do a lot better than what you trepidate or worry about. You're thinking, oh, I'm maybe going to do a 6 out of 10 on this speech, and you're going to do a 8 or 9. All right? Most people's concerns about giving a speech stem or come from their own expectations, not those of the audience. So people don't know you that well or know how you're going to deliver a speech. But you're all worried about, you know, where you make mistakes or what's the hard part of the speech for you. So the worry comes from you. The audience's expectations are usually a lot lower than yours. That's correct, because they don't know you or how you're going to give a speech. What's your style? This is particularly true in the early stages of your career as a public speaker. The rookie phase, right? The newbie phase. Learning to do anything well takes time and effort, acquiring any skill. No one would expect to play like Oscar Peterson, famous pianist, the first time they sit down at a piano. Yet many people think they should be able to speak like Winston Churchill. He was a Prime Minister of England during World War II and said a lot of speeches to the British people who were under attack by the Nazis and helped them get through them. So they think they can talk like Winston Churchill the very first time they stand up in front of an audience. There's no such thing as a natural speaker. Sounds like that might be a good question for the midterm. Is there such a thing as a natural speaker? And then half my students will say, yes, there is, because they didn't listen to the lecture. All speakers, even the most accomplished you've ever heard, have had to overcome some level of fear and have acquired their skills and developed their poise over a period of time. So that goes back to what we said earlier about everybody makes mistakes, especially early in your career. So you have to be able to, in your mind, overcome them. And then you will develop strong skills and then develop the poise to be up there and do it. Again, I can relate something to you as far as developing a skill. in a stressful situation. I don't know how many of you have seen stand-up comics or have been to a comedy club. Someone told me Beijing had some comedy clubs. I didn't see any. Uh, and someone told me they had them in Japan, but they're not popular. Okay? So there's a thing when you're you're doing your comedy and someone starts yelling at you or telling you you're stupid. See, that's another thing. This is called heckling, and that is a heckler. The person is a heckler. That's not allowed when you give a speech. Other company people have to be quiet. But in comedy, people can get up and heckle you. And as a beginning comedian, you worry about that a lot. But you have to develop your skills over time to deal with people like that. So you don't have to deal with a heckler, thank God. But you have to deal with your mistakes. Okay? And you will acquire it as you continue to perform them. In the middle, positive visualization exercises are wonderful therapy for managing the fear of public speaking. Picture yourself being successful in front of the audience and having a really good time giving the talk. See yourself relaxed and smiling. Keep in mind that the audience wants you to succeed. So this positive visualization, these are techniques that used a lot by sports people, whether it's football, baseball, or basketball. The top level guys will tell you, before we play today, I see myself in my mind hitting a home run off the picture. I see myself hitting a single. I see myself making all my catches. And this, pre-programs your mind to do these things and relax and be ready for them, which is a heck of a lot better than saying, oh, the pitcher's really good. I hope I don't strike out. I hope I don't drop any balls in the outfield. I hope I don't, right? Kind of lead you to make a mistake eventually. So positive visual exercises. Again, you think in your mind, I'm going to go up, give that speech. All the girls in my class are going to fall in love with me. This is Temujin thinking. So, or maybe Purevi. Very positive. Okay. And again, the audience wants you to succeed. Okay. They completely sympathize with you, understand you, because they have or have had the same fear of speaking in public as you do, right? That's why we hear the term where people, oh, the person got up there and I was nervous for the person. Why? Because I've been in that situation. I was very nervous. I like the person giving a speech, so I was nervous for them. Okay. Here we go. Here's some key secret answers. These kinds of questions always pop up on the exams. The greatest weapon against fear, though, is preparation. You got to do that preparation. You don't do it, oh, you're asking for trouble. Believe you me. Spend your time preparing rather than fretting. Fretting is an old word that nobody uses anymore. Don't fret, please. It means worry. So spend your time preparing your speech instead of worrying about what's going to go wrong. Concentrate on your message and how you want to deliver it. Think about what you want the audience to learn from your remarks and stop worrying about yourself. Know your opening the first minute or two so well that you can be confident You'll get through it no matter how nervous you feel. Making it through the first few sentences will have an unbelievably settling effect on you. So what that means is after you say your first sentences, you will probably calm down because you're in the flow of your speech instead of the nervous part right before you start. Right? You got to get into that flow. The second greatest weapon against fear is bacon cheeseburger? No, is practice. Another good question for the midterm. Be sure to rehearse your speech as often as you can. It's a good practice. Then as soon as that speech is out of the way, look for another opportunity to speak in front of a group. The more often you speak publicly, the more comfortable and less fearful you'll become. Yes, this is true. Join organizations or clubs, get on committees, and become involved. Teach Sunday school, then you'll have to, these are opportunities that you'll have to speak. If you teach Sunday school, you'll speak in front of students. Join a church group, again, speaking. Teach adult classes. Become a scout leader. Join Toastmasters Internationals, that's a club for speakers. Whether at a company conference or a PTA meeting. Grasp, which means take any and every opportunity to stand up and say something, even if it's only seconding an emotion or stating your agreement. So seconding emotion is you say, I second this emotion, but you have to talk. So, or stating your agreement or disagreement with something that's just been said. Again, every one of these is a great opportunity for you to speak in front of people. George Bernard Shaw, in addition to being one of the world's greatest playwrights, also became a successful and much sought after or requested orator, which means speaker, during the golden age of lecture tours. So golden age is referring to anything as a part of time that was the most popular for whatever it is. So there was a golden age, popular, the most popular time when lecture tours were the most popular. So it's, you know, like you talk about the Beatles, you say, what's the golden age of the Beatles? And you'd have to say the 1960s. That's their golden age. People still like them, but you know, they broke up by 70. So, but the 60s, they were the best. When asked how he developed his public speaking poise, there's that word poise again, Mr. Shaw is reported to have said, I did it the same way I learned to skate, by doggedly, which means never stopping, and repeatedly making a fool of myself until I got used to it. So there you go. He didn't really worry about making mistakes or how he looked. He just kept on doing it until he got used to it. And then once he got used to it, he knew he was not going to make any mistakes before. See, that's a way I can tell, like when I've taught students in the past, okay? I'm teaching different things now, but when I used to have to work with students for conversation, the students that could progress the fastest had that kind of thinking. It's difficult, it's rare. Most students think, especially Asian students, if I don't think I'm going to sound correct 100% or sound a little strange, I'm not going to answer. So, and I'm not going to try. So that makes the progress slow. So I have had a few students, and they'll tell me, they'll say, teacher, just talk to me. Where I make a mistake, let me know, but I really don't care. And I just want to get that confidence of speaking and speaking. So after, correcting things over a short period of time, they don't make those mistakes anymore, and they already have this poise and confidence from speaking, and they progress the fastest. The other ones, I don't know when they're gonna, since they're afraid and they don't really practice because they don't want to be heard making mistakes. It's gonna take a while for them to have the poise to reach the levels that they want. Okay. So again, as I say, George Bernard Shaw had to pay his dues by practicing his way through his fear of public speaking. There's no reason for you to be reluctant or hesitant about doing the same. You should do exactly the same. That's how you learn. I mean, think about it. If you already knew, let's say, English perfectly, why would you be taking an English class? You're taking an English class because you're learning. So accept the mistakes. If after thorough, which means a lot, almost complete preparation and a couple of rehearsals, you're still overly concerned about your talk, make an appointment with yourself to worry about it. So that means you sit here and after all this practice in thorough study, like, I'm still worried. Okay, talk to yourself, look in the mirror, say, you, Mr. Worried, I'm going to make an appointment with you for 2 weeks from now, and then I'll worry. But right now, I can't worry. Okay, that's what that means. So set aside an hour or so to do nothing but worry about the talk. So you just sit there. I'm worrying now. I'm worrying, right? And you'll realize it's a waste of time. That's the funny part of it. Make a list of all the things that could possibly go wrong. But instead of simply fretting, there's fretting, okay, worrying about them. Consider what the odds really are on any of them happening. Right? You think of the odds. Well, what's the percentage of something really bad happening? You'll quickly realize that most of the things you think could go wrong probably won't. So why worry about them? But don't stop there. Ask yourself what you can do to prevent any potential problems from happening. What can I do? Then make a note of what action you take if something go awry. So you say, okay, I'm going to write down what I'm going to do if this thing goes wrong. Okay? Okay. So, like it says, I think it's worth repeating. You'll quickly realize that most of the things you think could go wrong probably won't. So why worry about them? But don't stop there. Ask yourself what you can do to prevent any potential problems from happening. So like I said, if you're a man, an older man, and you give a talk and you have the change, and you're like, clink, 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 clink. Go before you go up there, take all the change out of your pockets. You fix the problem. So then make a note of what action you take if something did go awry, which means wrong. At this point, it's probably a good idea to throw away the list because now you're confident. Of course, if another appointment with yourself is required, appointment number 2, Mr. Worry, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, you'll need to make a new list, but it will likely be shorter. Try this, and I guarantee that you will get much more comfortable about the speech, even if it takes 2 or 3 appointments with yourself. An important byproduct of this technique is that on the rare occasion when something you were worrying about actually does happen, you will have rehearsed how to handle it. And that's great. That's great. When you arrive at the speech venue or location, remember that physical movement helps offset fear instead of like this, like the kids do. While sitting at the head table or in the audience waiting your turn, and particularly as your time to speak comes near, there are a few physical things you can do to help alleviate nervousness, which means remove nervousness, without making a fool of yourself. You can take some deep breaths. You can clench, hold your fist really tight, and unclench your fist and open. You do it in a fast, like really tight, and then open. But don't get caught wringing your hands. That means pulling on your hands. It looks that's a worrying sign in American culture. And that always sends a bad signal to the audience. You can squeeze your knees together. You can wiggle your toes because standing behind the lectern, no one will see your knees squeezed together. And no one can see your toes inside your shoes. So don't give a speech barefooted. Remind yourself as you approach the lectern that you should be more concerned about your audience. Yes, that plays a key role. So you should be more concerned about your audience than yourself. Why is that? When you stand up to speak, stop worrying about how you're going to look and sound. Concentrate instead on your message. Remind yourself that you've given this talk a great deal of thought and preparation, that you're the person the audience has come to hear, and that you have something worthwhile to say in which they'll be interested. That's the way you look at it. Biological reactions to the fear of speaking in front of a group of people are perfectly normal. Understand that. These reactions include the classic butterflies in the stomach. So when you feel light in the stomach, when you're nervous, we say that feeling is like you have an empty stomach and you have butterflies flying around in there. That's why people will tell you, hey, you're going to give the speech in 2 minutes. You got butterflies? So he doesn't mean, did you catch butterflies outside and put them in your bag? No, he means, are you feeling nervous? Weak knees, like you're going to fall down. Clammy hands, that means your hands are sweaty. And a tight, dry throat. That's why you're like, please bring me water. My throat is so tight. These are all signs of nervousness. And all of them, they will all go away if you ignore them and get on or start your task at hand, which is to give the talk. If you forget about your fear and focus instead on your message, it will take only a few seconds for the uneasiness to disappear. Once you begin to speak, just concentrate on what you're saying and forget about how you're standing. Gesturing, which means how you're moving your hands or scratching your ear or licking your lips occasionally or sounding. Nobody is comfortable hearing their own voice. So, oh, I sound so strange. I sound like a crow, you know. Ah. Don't worry about it. At the bottom, these feelings of anxiety are so natural that if you don't have at least a mild case of them before speaking, you'll probably not give your best performance. This is good. This is key in here. This means if you feel absolutely none of these symptoms, again, butterflies in the stomach, weak knees, sweaty hands, or clammy and a tight throat, you feel none of those and you just feel like, yeah, I think I want to go to sleep. You probably won't give your best speech. But if you feel a couple of these things, a little nervousness, remember, we're learning how to manage fear here. You will be ready and give a pretty good darn speech, if I say so myself. At the bottom, these feelings of anxiety are so natural that if you don't have at least a mild case of them before speaking, you'll probably not give your best performance. So I said that again. Don't forget it. What these symptoms really mean is that you care enough about your topic and your audience that you want to do well. Even elite athletes, and I mentioned sports players earlier, and racehorses get keyed up or excited before events. You should be no difference. So again, this just pushes the point even farther, is that if you're not even a little nervous, which will help you, as they say, be sharp, be alert, be on top of your game, you're not going to do that well. And then they talk about elite athletes. I remember reading about this basketball player. His name was Bill Russell, and he played for the Boston Celtics in the late 1950s and most of the 60s. And he played on a team that won the most championships basically as one team. You know, like if I've got young guys in here, you know, and you were following the Lakers. I wasn't. I've been busy, and they just won the championship with LeBron, right? And I see these guys driving around the city with these signs that say Lakers 17 championships, right? Well, that's a little different. The first championship they won was 1972. So 82, 92, 202, 212. That's almost 50 years. Okay, that's completely different teams, completely different epics. But this fellow, Bill Russell, you know, let's say he played 12 or 13 years. That team that he played on in those 12 or 13 years, not 50, mostly the same guys, they won 10 championships. Okay, just very, very impressive. So, but why am I using him? Because you know what he did before playoff games and championship games? He threw up. And he threw up. And he played fantastically. He was ready. Which you think it should be the opposite, the obvious opposite where, oh, he was asleep and they had to throw water on him to wake him up. That's how relaxed he was. No, he was ready to go. He was nervous. He knew the team could lose. And that nervousness, he controlled the fear and made him ready. He used it as a weapon. And an important point here, Remember that fear is simply a feeling. Following the advice in this chapter may not get rid of the butterflies in your stomach, but it will definitely get them flying in formation. So they're being funny there. That's a joke. That's just saying, okay, maybe it won't get rid of the butterflies completely, but you'll be able to control them and use them to your benefit, just like Bill Russell. So here we go to our famous nutshell. Again, all the important points of this chapter squeezed down to fit inside of a nutshell, and throwing away all the excess reading material. Number one, if you don't manage your fear of public speaking, it will likely become a self-fulfilling prophecy. And the things you fear will happen. Two, fear of public speaking is perfectly normal and can be managed and overcome. Yes. Three, maintain a positive, confident attitude about yourself and message. You must keep this all the time. Four, give yourself mental pep talks every time you have an excess amount of time between the speech or any time that you feel nervous. Five, visualize yourself giving a successful, well-received speech and having a good time doing it. Again, like the athletes, you think, today I'm going to score a touchdown. Today I'm going to hit a home run. We're going to win. Yeah. That's what's going to happen. Lock yourself into it. Okay. 6, audiences tend to be very forgiving toward novice speakers, which means beginners. So once they find out you're a beginner, they're usually very kind and sympathetic and forgiving. 7, objectively assess the odds of something going wrong, which means do your little figuring there, your mathematics, and say, what's the odds of something going wrong? Then take the steps necessary to turn those odds in your favor, right? Change them. Again, it goes back to you jingle change as an older man, take the change out of your pockets, right? You scratch your nose a lot, okay, keep your hand on your notes. Don't ever let your hand go up to scratch your nose. So if you take care of your major, if you remember in the early reading shortcomings, you can turn these possible negative situations into your favor. 8, even the most accomplished speakers have had to overcome some level of fear early in their careers, right? They had to do it. 9, the greatest weapon against fear is Del Taco? No, preparation. Prepare rather than fret. And again, fret is a word that's disappearing and it means worry. The second greatest weapon, okay, the first one's preparation. Don't forget. Shoo. Preparación, okay? The second one, the second greatest weapon against fear is not a hamburger, is practice. And many of my students will not practice. They won't do it. I can always tell a young guy that's like really confident, I'm gonna do a speech on being a DJ, and he never practices. I can do it. I know what to talk about. And then he gets up there and then, I didn't practice and I forgot what comes first. Did I repeat what came second? What should I say for number 3? And then people just look at you like, what's going on? Right? So the second greatest weapon against fear is practice. The more often you speak in front of groups, the less fearful you will be. Okay? See where this goes. Okay, questions. All right. Number 1. What will become a self-fulfilling prophecy? So what are you going to do? That's bad. That's going to come true. Don't do it. 2. What is good about fear? So Temu, don't write something like, oh, I think a fear is delicious. So just put some ketchup on it. That's not the answer. 3. Should you try and overcome all your weaknesses? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Might be a tricky one. 4. How do you counter this feeling? So 4 is connected to 3. So once you find the answer for 3, now you can answer 4 and then shut the door. 5. Why are you the right person for a speech? Why? Does it have to do with anything about people being unique? Or no, never. What are we talking about there? Okay, 6. Why should you not worry a lot about giving a speech? You can worry a little bit, but why should you not sit there for a couple of hours and go, giving the speech? I don't know. I'd rather die. It's like, why should you not do that? 7. What is the most important aspect or thing of managing your fear? So, what is the most important aspect? So, don't give me the low one. Don't give me the middle one. Give me the most important one. Okay. 8. You must know enough about the topic to merit what? And again, merit means deserve. So, you shouldn't go up there and not know. You know, if I was supposed to give a speech about Korea, then I just really didn't pay attention in my studies. They weren't in depth. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, you know, Korea started originally with the 3 kingdoms, original kingdoms of Korea, and they were Busan, Pohang, and Wonju. You know, when everybody, any Korean person knows Pak Chesi La Koryo, right? You will see, I don't know what I'm talking about. So you must know enough about the topic to merit what? 9, how do you convince yourself that you are the right person? How do you do that? Do you buy yourself dinner? Do you get drunk? Do you get angry with yourself and say, I'm going to beat you up myself if you don't believe I'm the right person? How do you do this? Next, 10, why you are ready to give a number of talks nobody else can. Yeah, why? You, special woman, special man. Why are you ready uh, to give a number, which means a lot of talks nobody else can give? What is the reason? It's driving me crazy. 11, how are the audience expectations usually? So how does the audience usually feel? Do they feel like, well, if Mr. Hong comes up there and makes one mistake, I'm going to set his shoes on fire. You know, I'm going to be so angry. I'm going to attack Starbucks. Is that how they feel? So just tell me exactly how the audiences usually feel when people come up to speak, especially new folks. 12, why is it that there isn't a thing, you know, or should be such a thing as a natural speaker? So don't be tricked here. So what this means is, why isn't there a natural speaker? What are the reasons why people are not natural speakers? Okay. They will tell you. 13. What is the greatest weapon against fear? Again, might have whatever you say. A machine gun. No, not a machine gun. You know, or Korean Bayar might say, oh, it's a sword. Yes, that'll kill the fear. No, it might kill you, but it won't kill the fear. So we're talking, well, I can't say, I can't, the hint would be too much help. Okay. And 14, the last question for today. What is the second greatest weapon against fear? So 13 is one, and again, it's not a machine gun, it's not a sword. And second, what is the second greatest weapon against fear? So my other students, those ones are the violent students, but my other students who are philosophy majors, deep thinkers, I don't want you to say, oh, the second greatest weapon against fear is love. No, that's not the answer, right? Tull understands about that, about love and no love. So there you go. Okay. So that's it for week 4, managing fear, scheduled for October 26, 2020. So I will see you for next week. Okay. Thank you for your time. Okay, there I am, and I am ending the lesson. So bye-bye.